Hi, this is Abby Kadabi here, and I am going to do another video on Embird Editor. And this video is going to continue to discuss the different drop-down menus, and I'm going to be talking about the mode and view drop-down menus. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to open my program. And so in my very first video, which discussed installing and setting up your program, I did go over the functions under the file drop-down menu, and then I did a separate video just on edit. And so now we're going to discuss the mode and the view drop-down menus. So let's click on mode, and there's 5 different things under mode. And the first one is your select mode, which is this button right here. And the select mode helps you to select the design or deselect the design, and it also helps you turn off functions here in your design toolbar. The points editing mode is used for editing designs and moving stitch points around. Freehand select mode is used for cutting parts of a design apart. Rotate allows you to rotate your design to various different degrees, and zoom um, allows you to zoom in on your workspace. So I'll go over each of these a little bit, but I did want to point out that you do have your points editing mode right here. This is your points editing mode. This is your freehand select mode, your rotate mode, and your zoom mode. So I'm going to go ahead and open a file, and I'll open this fish here. And so the first thing under mode was the select mode. And so this box that is around the um, fish is your selection box. These little black boxes on the corner of the selection box are used to resize. You can use those to resize your design. So if you grab one of these little corner nodes and with your left mouse button, hold it down, you can resize down, and that is resizing both height and width at the same time. Now, if I decided I wanted to resize again and I resize it this way, would make any, but Ember's giving me a warning that says that I have resized more than one time, and during while I have the program open, and so it's asking me if I want to continue anyways. The problem with resizing a design that has already been resized is you're going to end up with a lot of stitch distortion, and you may be very unhappy with your stitch out. You may have loopy stitches, or you may have areas where the stitches are just all jumbled together. So the best thing to do here is say no and come back up and do an undo so you can go back to your original design, and then you can resize again and you won't receive that error message. Now, if you don't want to resize both height and width together, you just want to resize the height of the design, you can use the middle node or the bottom node. They both the same way, and I'm getting that error message because I did it twice in a row. So I'm going to undo. And if you just want to resize the width, then I use the node on the side, and I can make him a lot fatter. So that's how you can resize things. And there's other ways to resize, but I forgot to discuss that in my previous video, so I thought I'd catch you up here. So back under mode, we have the points editing mode. And to use the points editing mode, you must be in the normal view. If you're in the 3D mat or any of these others, you're not going to see the stitch point. So I'm going to click on points editing mode, and you see my fish appearance changed drastically, and so I can zoom in on my fish, and then you see I see all these little boxes here, and each box represents a stitch point, and so I can move these stitch points. I can delete stitch points, I can add stitch points, and so in order to do that, I'm going to click on whatever one is what I want to edit. And so I'm going to click on it, and you see it became slightly bolder. And so then I hold down my left mouse button and I can move my mouse up, and that stitch point will move up to where I want it, or I can move it back to where it was originally. If I didn't like that stitch point and I wanted to get rid of it, I could right click on it and I can click delete and it'll go away. And if I want it back, I just do an undo and then another undo to return it where it was. If I want to move or select this stitch point here and I want to add additional stitches here, I hold down my mouse button and I just click along the line, and you see it kind of went backwards. So now I have two stitch points here. So if I zoom in even more, I can find the original stitch point that makes this. It's this one right here. So if I click on that one and I hold down my control button, my cursor changes to a needle, and then I can click up the line to add additional stitch points. And then I could scroll over to this stitch point and I can click down the line. So that's a way if you end up getting stitch points and then you get this extra line like this, it means you went the wrong direction. And so you can just straighten them out by pulling them out like that. And so I'm going to do a multiple undo here. And another thing you can do with stitch points, if you want to move a whole column of stitch points, I've done this occasionally when I'm doing an applique and I don't feel the satin stitch is covering the tack down stitch well enough, and so I'll come in and I'll select a stitch point and then I hold down my shift button and then I come and I click a whole series of stitch points. I want them all to turn bold, and then when I have clicked what I think is all the ones I want, I can let go of my shift button and I left click on any one of them, and then I can drag the whole row out like that. So that's how you can change stitch points. You can, if you can select just one stitch point, and you can click on stitch type, and you can change it from a running stitch to a floating stitch. And this comes in uh, handy, especially when you're separating designs, because sometimes you get a stitch out there and it does not have a tie off with it. So let's say I wanted to add a tie off here, I could change this to a floating, and when okay, you want to insert a tie off, and I'm going to say yes, and so then it makes a tie off so that my stitch won't unravel. So that's just a quick explanation of stitch points. And when you're done editing, you need to click the select mode. I did want to show you that if I go to 3D matte, that I don't see any of those stitch points, or if I go to even 3D or 1-to-1 matte, you don't see the stitch points. And you see the difference between 3D when I clicked on it because I was way zoomed in. And so if I wanted to go right back to a 1-to-1 view, I can click that. So and then I'm going to turn that function off. So the next thing I'm going to do is use this freehand select. And so I want to edit out my seaweed here. So the easiest way for me to edit out this seaweed is to use the freehand select. And I'm going to come over to my objects order panel, and the seaweed is this green color. So I'm going to left click on the green colored chip, and turns it to an X, and you'll notice that the seaweed disappeared. And so I'm going to now draw a circle, and I'm left clicking and moving my mouse, and I just keep left clicking as I go around the fish. And then when I get back up here, I just cross the line and I click the split icon. And so you see I have my seaweed, but it's still hidden. And then I have my fish. So if I left click on this X, it reappears. And so then if I move my fish, you see it's separate from the seaweed. Now you notice I have this um, jump stitch going from nowhere into the seaweed. So what I would do for that is I would select my seaweed, and then I'm going to hit my points editing mode, and I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to left click on this node, and I think I'm going to delete that one. And let's see what else I got here. I'm going to delete that one. And so then it took care of that jump stitch and it's gone. So then I turn off my points editing mode and I'm back to where I am. So now I'm going to go on to the rotate mode. I did go into this somewhat under the edit video, but I'll just quickly go over it again. If you double click on the icon, you get this pop-up box, and you can put in a degree of rotation that you want, and you can click OK, and then the fish will rotate. Or I can grab the black box with my cursor, which is now turned to this little um, circle, and so I put that on the black box, and I hold my mouse button down, and then I move my mouse the way I want and I can, when I let up, that's the way it's going to sit. You also have the you can rotate it quickly with the rotate left. And so if I click the rotate left button, the mouse will rotate, the fish will rotate to the left. So I have to turn off my rotate button to use the rotate to the left feature. So I'm going to rotate it to the left, and then I can use the rotate to the right and he'll go back to the way he was. So those are quick ways to rotate. You can also use the rotate under, and it works just the same way. It's just that you have to go through the drop down menu. And again, you have to turn it off. And then the next thing is zoom. And so you can zoom through the mode drop down, and so you click on zoom and it changes your cursor to a magnifying glass, and you can keep clicking as many times as you want. But the downfall of zooming this way is that you have to remember to turn it off. And you also have the zoom icon here on your object order panel. And again, it's the same. It turns your cursor and you have to remember to turn it off. So if you want to go back to a one-to-one view, you can just click on that. And other ways to zoom are on your main toolbar. You have a zoom in and a zoom out, and you just continue to click on the icon to zoom in or the minus to zoom out. And my favorite way to zoom is just to click in the work field, and then I can roll my um, mouse wheel forward to zoom in and roll it back to zoom out, and I never have to remember to turn anything off. So I think that covered everything under mode. Under view, you have your normal and enhanced view, and I have clicked on enhanced many times and I have never figured out exactly what it does. So I just leave it on normal. You also have a zoom under view, and I would recommend not using this zoom because it's tedious. You click in and it zooms once, and then you have to come back up to view and you click zoom and you click again, and you have to keep doing that. And so as far as I know, you can zoom out one level and then continue to zoom back to one. So very slow way to zoom. And then you have commands. And so if you click on commands, you will see on my fish, I have these red dots now. And so if I zoom in, those are actually telling me um, where I have my color changes. And so color changes, and I don't know if you can read them. Oh, it's a stop. These are stops. So that's stops that are in there. And so that's what those commands are telling me. So if you'd like to see those, you can keep command checked. The next thing under view is object boundary, and I need to zoom out to show you that. So I'm going to move my fish back over here a little bit. And so right now, I don't have anything selected, and I'm going to go up to view, and I'm going to put a check mark in front of object boundaries, and you see it put a box around each separate object so you know where the boundary are, but there's none of the little nodes on the corner. So I'm not really sure what the real benefit of this is. Um, so it's your choice if you want to see that. I don't particularly use it, so I don't keep that checked, and I don't like to see the commands, so I uncheck those. And then you have stitch point, stitch direction, and stitch number. These are all go with the points editing. So if I click on stitch points, it's the same as clicking on my points editing mode, and I can zoom in and do all the same functions that I just did. If I click on stitch direction and I zoom in even more, you can see it easier here in the black. I now have little arrows that are telling me which way my sewing machine is sewing. So from here, it's sewing from right to left. The arrows are pointing toward the left. And then down here, the arrows are pointing toward the right. So it's going from left to right. So that's what those arrows indicate. And then the other thing under view is stitch number, and it will assign a number to every stitch point, and it gets overwhelming seeing all those numbers, but if you're looking for a specific stitch, you could click on that stitch, and I clicked on, well, it's telling me it's 552, and then I could ask this, I think I can put in 5,552, and I could hit enter, and then it will take me right to that stitch. And so you can see it changed my whole design. So that's kind of how that works. And I'm going to do an undo, and I'm going to go back to view and uncheck all of these because it's just a little bit too much when I'm working with my design. But if you're going to do some stitch editing, you might want to have those on. The next thing you have here is hide all colors. And so I can click that, and then my fish disappears. It's not that he's deleted. He's still over here in my objects order box. It's just that all the colors are hiding, and I can tell they're hiding because I have an X on each color. And if I come back to view, I can click now show all colors, and he comes back. That's one way of hiding colors. You can go to your color chips here in the objects order panel, and you can right click on it, and you can hide all colors here. And again, everything's hidden. And if I right click again, I can click show all colors. I can just hide one color if I want, and I think the easiest way to hide one color is just to left click on it, and then I can hide a separate color, and so the two colors in between are still there. And if I left click on those colors again, they return. And so there's a lot of different things you can do with the color chips, and I will be going into a separate video on all of those. So also under view, it's asking you if you want small color chips, and they're referring to these color chips here in your objects order panel. And I think they're on the small side as is. So if I put a check mark in front of small color chips, you see they get extremely small, and I can't work with them at that size. So I do not check small color chips. The next thing view is telling you it has a check in front of rulers, which means it's showing your rulers, your main toolbar, your design toolbar, your status toolbar, and your object order bar, and your stitch list. So if you don't want to see any of those, like if you don't care about the stitch list, you can uncheck that and your stitch list goes away. If you like seeing that, you can just recheck it. If you don't like working with the toolbars, you just think they're confusing and you'd rather use your drop down menus, you can hide your main toolbar and it goes away, and you can hide your design toolbar. I would not recommend hiding your objects order toolbar. But if I used my toolbars, so I'm going to reactivate those. And then the last thing that I'm going to discuss under view is Sew Simulator. And I did touch on that a little bit in the edit video. So, and you can get to Sew Simulator by clicking on the sewing machine here in the design toolbar. So I'm going to click on that. And then you have the stitches per second. And right now I have it set at 1 stitch per second, which is extremely slow. As you can see, it's barely moving here. And if I zoom in, you can kind of see it's working its way very slowly. So I'm going to speed this up and I'm going to put it like at 750. And so now it's stitching much quicker. And so it's filling in my fish and I can kind of watch as it goes and I can tell if I have an object out of or a color out of sequence. So this helps me know if I need to reorder my design, if I've been editing a design, if I need to reorder the parts that I have of the design. So um, if I decided that I want to do some editing here, I could um, start let's pretend I'm going to edit out this red, which is right here on the timeline. And so I could start the play and then it went too fast and oh, wait a minute, maybe it hasn't. Okay, it's getting up close and oops, I missed it. So okay, so I'm going to back up. And so I'm in the blue. So I'm going to go forward maybe about 100 stitches and okay, and now I'm into the red, but just slightly into the red. You can see I have some lines here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease my stitches down to 1, and I'm going to hit the rewind button, and I keep watching my stitches, and I'm waiting to see when the last red stitch disappears. And so I'm going to rewind and I still have 1 red stitch right there. So I'm going to rewind 1 more stitch and now I see the jump stitch. So I'm going to come up here and split. And so when I look at my object order panel, I split right before the red and that's what I want. And I have no red in the second object here. But there's easier ways of splitting your design than using the Sew Simulator. And so you can come up and right click on the red color chip and come down here and click split before color. And it did the exact same thing and it wasn't nearly as difficult as trying to find that exact stitch. So this ends my video on mode and view. I hope you enjoyed it. My next video will be covering the insert and option drop-down menus, and I hope you stay tuned for that.